Hey guys, welcome back to Jay's Fifth Down Football Podcast. I'm your host Jaden. Once again here today with Rusty Byrd. Here to talk about some NFL football. Recap here, Thursday night football, Rams and the Raiders. Interesting game we had there. Baker Mayfield making his debut for the Los Angeles Rams last night, just a couple days after getting signed. We'll get into that and much more. But thank you guys again for tuning in, watching the show, continuing to help us grow on YouTube and all of our different platforms. We appreciate it. Please make sure you subscribe and check us out as well. Rusty, so the Rams and the Raiders played last night. Baker Mayfield, before we get into the game, actually, so it's been a rough year for Baker, as we've talked about many times before. Get traded to the Panthers. That didn't work so well. He gets cut by them. Then the Rams pick him up. Were you surprised or shocked by that move at all?
So I was shocked that he got cut. But my opinion is this. I think it was, this is just a backdoor deal that was done where, look, the Rams probably talked to the Panthers and said, look, the trade deadline is over. We need a quarterback. We'll hook y'all up later with something. Can you cut him and we'll pick him up? That's just what I think, because how did it all coincidentally just happen like that? So, I just think that's how stuff works. If you got, so I was shocked, but I wasn't.
Yeah. And like you said, the Panthers, when they released him, it was a little surprising. But then again, it wasn't because just of his play. He just hasn't played well at all this year. Baker Mayfield has a QBR of 18, or he did at least before last night's game. Not good at all. But yeah, he gets picked up by the Rams, and he just, they say he learned the playbook like he was just reading the playbook on the flight. Sean McVay came over to him. They were just on the flight, just talking about the playbook. So I did get to hear that tidbit of information there, which I thought was pretty funny. But the Rams get the win. They were down 16-3 to the Raiders, and they came back, and Baker leads them to a 17-16 comeback win. Is there for the Raiders? Is there concern? Because this has happened a lot this year for them. So they get these leads and they blow them. So it's like, what do you think is going on in Las Vegas, man?
So when you have a new coach, everything's not guaranteed to just flow smoothly. You ask the Broncos, and so I think that the Raiders, I thought they had a lot of pieces in place, but I don't know. It's one of those questions that, like, every year you ask, are the Raiders for real? And I personally don't think John Gruden did a good job of building a foundation and building that team to be anything that would be sustained. I remember watching the Hard Knocks when they had Antonio Brown, and I just watched how things were going on. And they gave him a $100 million 10-year contract, and I just think Gruden just way overhyped. I don't think they really had enough personnel in enough key places. And so I think that foundation for the Raiders was really never all that strong. And so, I like Derek Carr. I know he's getting, what's his name, from Green Bay. We thought that was going to be, really, really helpful. But so I think that the foundation, I think they have to give this coaching staff, this team, a couple of years. And I think they once they get into a groove of getting their players, I think they'll be better. But let me just add one little piece to it. It's kind of like playing sports in Miami. How hard is it to play in Vegas and not be distracted?
Yeah.
Really, like, what? I know, like, they when teams, especially basketball teams, because they go in and out and they get there late, they fly. Like, they always say a lot of teams lose to Miami in basketball to the Heat, and they say that they got the Miami flu. And all that means is they were out all night partying and enjoying the weather and all that stuff and having a good time. And then that's like a little advantage the Heat usually have. But I can't really put my finger on anything other than the fact that, also, the Raiders, they, they don't have the easiest schedule, and they're 5-8. I mean, they could do something. It's a lot of parity this year. Like if you just look throughout, especially the whole AFC, there's a lot of 7-5, 6-4, 5-7, all the way through the league. So yes, the Raiders have had some bad losses, but who would have thought the Broncos would be this bad? Again, you go, outside of the NFC East, everybody's still in the hunt.
Yeah, in the hunt. Yeah, it's just up in there. It's just it's going to be a matter of, who can just slide in there when it's all said and done. And so, and for the Raiders' sake, they just, like you said, man, new coach, and it's hard to, especially when you don't have, because Josh McDaniels, he's got to have certain type of players in his offense, on his team, the way he wants it to go, and he just doesn't have a lot of those guys, because most of them, or a good percentage of them, are left over from Gruden. And so until a coach really gets his guys in there, it's going to be hard to build any solid foundation and a solid franchise. You see it with the Falcons, right? You still got guys from the Dan Quinn, Thomas Dimitroff era on this team, and until they're gone, it's going to be they're not going to completely reach to where they want to go, because Arthur Smith's got to get his guys in there. So it's the same thing I'm seeing with the Raiders. So at least we can share the field with somebody who not the only team blowing a lot of leads. So now the Raiders can join us in the party. But
and the other thing, let me just say this. People are always looking for the next Belichick, and none of his assistants have really ever gotten it done. So I don't know if it's trying to replicate what New England was doing. I don't know. I'm just haven't really had a lot of confidence in anybody. So Josh McDaniels tried to be a head coach before, and that didn't work out. I think he was in Denver.
Yeah.
And maybe he's just not a head coach. That could be it too. But I think he needs to try to stick this out to see if it's him or the organization or the players. But not too many of those people from that New England Patriots coaching tree under Belichick have done anything.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned prime example, Matt Patricia in Detroit. That didn't work out well at all. A lot of people forget that he was the head coach of the Lions.
No, bro.
Actually,
it's been 20 years. You can go back to Romeo Crennel. You can go back. Who's the guy that went to Notre Dame? Oh gosh, he was a coordinator back in the early years. He went to Notre Dame, and then none of those guys have really ever worked out at all.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's interesting, and Josh McDaniels, like you said, I think he just needs to stick it out, and get his guys in there, and let me throw this one in here before we continue, man. If you're the Raiders right now, do you know they gave Carr the contract, but is he the guy for the future? I mean, is Derek Carr really your quarterback?
I think he is your quarterback, because it's hard to get a good quarterback. Everybody's seeing that now. And, unless you know that there's a player that Josh McDaniels has worked with or feels very comfortable with, and I don't trust going to the draft, because just look at all these guys that have come out the last 2 years. Zach Wilson, even Justin Fields. I mean, I don't get excited because he's up, he's down, and if the biggest thing he's been doing well is running, that's not sustainable. So I guess what I'm saying is, I think Derek Carr is serviceable, and if you put the right people around him, like I think it was a good move to get him, another receiver. But like look at Tua. All right, Tua's first 2 years, nobody thought much of him. But then you bring in the right coordinator and those weapons, and it makes a big difference. And that's what I think you got to recognize is some people are great quarterbacks and they can make people great around. Other people, they're good, but they can be great if you put them in the right system with great receivers and a good system. So I think Derek Carr can be the man. But again, I think what we're all starting to realize is Tom Brady really was the glue to the Patriots. I mean, I'm not taking away from Belichick because he was the head coach, but they ain't really done much since Tom Brady left. And despite all the coaches that came in and out, all the players that came in and out, the constant was Brady and Belichick. But Brady may be the real key.
I think I agree with that, man. Since Brady's left, the Patriots have had one playoff appearance, and it didn't go well. And they're struggling right now themselves, trying to find some offensive fluidity in their consistency, and it's just, but when you have, like I said, when you have a defensive guy at heart and a special teams coach calling the offensive plays, you get what you get. So we'll just leave that right there. So this has been a crazy year for the Rams, though. A lot of injuries, up and down. It's so. What does the future look like for Los Angeles? Do you think? Matthew Stafford. I know he's gonna be there for a couple more years, and they've had injuries, but are the Rams? Can they get back to that point, that hierarchy, the top?
I think they can get back, yeah, because McVay's just that good. But I also think, they did one of those. We're gonna put all our eggs into this year, okay? Mm-hmm. And whatever comes after this year comes after this year. And they lost some key players. Von Miller came there for a little bit. He's gone, but it's like they lost key players, and then they've had injuries. Cooper Kupp has, had injuries, and so and then really, Matthew Stafford, he's not great, but he was very serviceable. But he's also a year older, and so. And then Aaron Donald, not sure if he's going to play, and was that really all for money? But, is he now fat and happy because he's got his money and he's still fat? But, so I just think the Rams this year is just going to be one of those years where, we'll figure it out next year. They just need to, I think, go back to the drawing board. They injuries. This is something that people don't like. Football, it really is a game of who can stay the healthiest sometimes. And hello, and so that's the thought. That's what I think.
Yeah, and like you said, it's hard to. I don't think there's been a team to go back to back or win back to back Super Bowls in such a long time. It's a reason why that is. It's a reason why that is. So it's very hard to do to continue to sustain that. And so I didn't expect this to be a great year for the Rams, at least not a Super Bowl year. But I thought they've been a little bit better. Like you said, injuries can hurt you very much. So that's just one of those things there. But keeping this in the NFC, the Minnesota Vikings, man, are one of the top teams in the NFC in the NFL this year. What's been working so well for Minnesota this year to get them the success they've had so far?
I'm not gonna say luck. They played well. They've got great receivers, but their whole margin of victory for the year is just plus 10 points. Like they, going into the last game, they had actually given up more points than they had scored. And so they've played a lot of really, 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 really close games, and they're winning. But just like you win those games, you can lose those games. So, um, you know, I mean, they're good, but you know they'll make the playoffs. But it's still Kirk Cousins. It's, you know, I mean, again, they gave him weapons. He has some, like Miami, he has weapons. So that's great. But you know, you got to do it in the playoffs. And can Kirk Cousins do it in prime time?
Yeah, that's
You
been a
know.
big question for Kirk, and it's been his Achilles heel.
And the other thing is that division is really weak.
It
We've
is.
never had Green Bay this bad, and the Bears and Lions in one season all this bad.
Yeah, so it's kind of just set up for Minnesota. So like you said, when we get to the playoffs, it is a whole different ball game. It's a different conversation. You know, who are those teams that can be able to sustain the weather and those increments and be able to run the football or actually throw the football actually because they're going to gain up on the run. So yeah, are you going to be able to throw the football? Can you consistently, just maintain long drives? And those are things that you have to wonder. And can these teams do that? Is that going to be, that's key. So that's what I wonder for the Vikings case. But and the AFC right now, also toss up. I mean, you got Buffalo, you got Kansas City, but Miami, toss them in there. They've been playing good. Mike McDaniel's been huge for them, man. Like I'm honest, what is your thoughts on Mike McDaniel coming down there and the impact he has had offensively for Tua for that team this year?
He's growing on because initially I was not. I was like, this is just a nerdy dude. You know, he's just a part of Shanahan's system. And he, to be honest, I mean, he only had really 1 year, I think, as a coordinator. You know,
I think
so
so, yeah.
but clearly he's smart. He went to Yale, I think. So he went to an Ivy League school, I know for sure. And but he's also very relatable to the players. You know, and he's not your typical coach. I mean, you can just tell he can relate. He's age of some of them, So, and he does know, like, he is clearly smart. Their schemed, their receivers. I mean, they've got great receivers, but they're also wide open. And so, and then him having the confidence into allowing him to feel comfortable and with that system and have the confidence with the leadership, because I don't think Tua felt that way, under Flores. He probably very stressed and knew the coach really wasn't feeling him, and then they didn't have an offensive system that was going to cater to what he would do and play well. And so I think I like what Mike McDaniel's done. I like what he's brought there. And, I mean, they look legit, but it's also again, we just have to see. But I like the direction the team is going, and I think Mike McDaniel should get a lot of credit for that.
I think so too. And people don't understand. You have a coach that the players can relate to, as you said. It can go a long way. Because it's that relationship, it's that bond. It's that being able to understand both ways, each other. And like you said, Mike McDaniel's just got that personality, that cool kind of laid back personality. But at the same time, when it's game time, he knows how to put his players in position to win. So that's if you can. It's hard to find coaches like that now. It's rare. Maybe Sean McVay, Mike McDaniel, some good examples. But it's rare that you find coaches like that. So yeah, I like what he's done with Miami and how they've come along. So, but yeah, man. Other than that, it's been crazy this year. This has been an interesting season. It's very much parity, like you said. It's a lot of parity this year. A lot of teams they're in the hunt. We don't know how it's all going to shake up in the end. So I'm looking forward to that, Rusty. But I did want to get your opinion here on this, man. Switching over to the college side of things, Deion Sanders taking the head coaching job at Colorado. It's been a very controversial topic between a lot of people. I mean, what are your thoughts on that move, man? How big is that for Colorado?
I think it's a big move for Colorado. I think any move was going to be a big move in terms of them trying to make a major change. And that was that you couldn't do much more than getting Prime. One, I'm really in favor of the move. I'm happy for Dion. I'm happy for his family. And I'm happy for the Colorado football community. I think, I can see where some people may be upset, but I think that's just because they may not really know football. And what I mean by that is, I'm not trying to insult anybody's intelligence, but if you really know football and not just a cursory, I'll watch it, but like, especially the college game, college coaches are moving all the time. Yeah. Go look at an assistant coach's resume. It is not uncommon for coaches to go someplace, learn, and go to the next, and keep making levels and moves. You may go up so you may go up from being a grad assistant to a position coach to a better position coach, and then being a coordinator. And each time you might have to make a move to do that. So I might go to a Division III school, then back down to be a head coach of a high school, then back into Division III, but then I'm a Division III, not just defensive backs coach. Now I'm a defensive. So this school says, "Oh, come over here now. You can be the defensive coordinator." And I do well there, and I go to a Division II. And if you look, it's not uncommon. Coaches are always making moves. And who thought that this would not be a stepping stone? Overall, I think so people that are so familiar with football, especially college football, that's not uncommon. But then, I think some of the people at Jackson State, some of the fans are just looking at it like, "Oh, he just left us high and dry." Well, no,
not at all.
This is the question: did he leave the place better than it was before he got there? And absolutely. In terms, they never had an undefeated season. He generated so much revenue. He got new facilities, locker rooms, and he brought about a lot of pride to not just Jackson State but HBCUs. It was time for him to move on. Now, the only thing I see where some people have problems, and I'm a Christian, is that when you're saying God told me to be here, so. But what some people may not understand is that God, I'm not saying God didn't tell him, but God can also open other doors and have other plans, and and so I think that it was but just him invoking that, I think it works in the South when you're in Mississippi, when you're in Georgia, people they can relate to that Christian thing, but and he said it in Colorado, but out there they're not gonna care as much. Like, you win, you lose, whatever. Like, so I think I'm fine with Dion. I think the one problem I had with the only problem I had is his speech to the players the first time he meets them, and he's talking about y'all can hit the transfer portal. Not that those speeches don't happen. They just shouldn't be on social media, and it wasn't for the public to digest, because that's the type of thing that can come back to haunt you if you don't have success. So, because like the Pac-12 got good coaches, they got good teams. It's not going to the MEAC, or the SWAC. It's these coaches are going to be coming for you. And so. I know he's confident. He's always been cocky, and it's always worked out for him. But 2 years, 3 years from now, when things ain't working out, people are going to be playing that video.
Yeah, that's a good point you made there, because there's something like that. I believe it's if you're gonna have that conversation, like you said, it might be best not to cast it out. Social media, but you also look at it from the standpoint of, hey, this is the type of guy, this is the culture that we're trying to instill here in Colorado, and so it's a multiple lanes of, that you can look at it, that other people are looking at this way, and I think Dion, he's trying to get in the player's head, saying that, hey, this is what we're doing. Like, I'm bringing my luggage with me. I'm bringing these guys with me. So nothing's guaranteed for anybody. You're gonna have to work for your position. So that's what he's trying to do. And honestly, I think Colorado's gonna be a good team in the next couple of years. I do believe they can be a good team. But again, like you said, just as you can be a good team, you can also be bad. So it just depends on which way the ball rolls.
And yeah, and the last thing I'll say about it is this: Division I. FBS level football, I think they have like 80-some scholarships. So you're coming into a new job and you're telling 80 kids to hit the road. You need a foundation. It may not be the strongest, but you need a foundation. And so let me say this. If 85 kids leave that program, then he's got to bring in 85 more. And he's trying to bring in 85 dogs. 85 dogs don't work because all dogs don't want to sit up. No dog wants to sit on the bench. You can only play 22. Okay, now you can have backup, but nobody recruits somebody to be a backup unless you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like you need some of them guys from Colorado to stay. You need a scout team. You need maybe somebody that can play. Like you can't get rid of everybody. Because everybody you bring in thinks they're good enough to start and play. Because if not, you just got another Alabama situation. All these 5-stars coming in. When that transfer portal open, you see all them Alabama players leaving?
A lot of them.
Because they were 4 and 5-stars and they're not playing. So that was another thing I thought about is I thought, he probably rubbed people the wrong way. And you look, some of them kids probably shouldn't be there. But you made an assumption about the kids in terms of their character and their skills without really evaluating. So that was it.
I mean, yeah, to be honest, we hadn't even, it's the off season. Like, we hadn't even started spring, spring practice yet. So, how do you really know? But like you said, man, it's going to be interesting to watch out. So, watch out for. So, but Rusty, thank you for coming on the podcast today, talking some ball with us here. And it's going to be a great rest of the season here in the NFL. Can you believe we only have like 4 more games left of the season? It's crazy. I
can believe college regular season's over.
So, yeah, it's flying by. The season flying by, man. So we're going to be, the future is just shaping out to be more and more exciting. I'm looking at all these players that are declaring for the draft too. So it's going to be interesting there. So, but yeah, thank you for coming on, Rusty. We appreciate you. You guys can check out Rusty's show, the Kirk and Byrd Show. They got some great content there, based out of Virginia. And you guys can check us out here on Jay Smith Down, on YouTube, Spotify, wherever you get your favorite podcast. Thank you for tuning in, Rusty. We'll see you next time, bro.
Thank you.
Of course.
God bless.